Welcome back, dear traders. You are aware that Wall Street had a highly volatile session yesterday. The benchmark stock indexes closed with confident gains. Today, stocks are extending moderate growth. Wall Street indexes closed in the green on a Wednesday. The Dow Jones rose more than 500 points or 1.63%. The Nasdaq logged the biggest growth, having gained 2.89%. The S&P 500 climbed 2.13% to close at 4,210 points. All of them traded with modest gains in the New York pre-market. The S&P 500 is likely to trade in the corridor between 4,180 and 4,280 points. Optimism on Wall Street comes from the upbeat inflation data. Yesterday, the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics reported that the annual rate of consumer inflation accelerated lower than expected to 8.5% in July from 9.1% in June. The consensus suggested a 8.7% increase. The core CPI, excluding volatile food and energy prices, stayed flat at 5.9% last month. Such figures might signal that inflation has reached its peak, so the US Fed could soften the pace of the monetary tightening. Fed funds futures indicated the 60% chance of a rate hike by 50 basis points in September, but not by 75 basis points as it was a few days ago. And in this context, the S&P 500 snapped a 4-day losing streak and climbed to the highest level since May. Nevertheless, we should not forget that headline inflation remains way above the Fed's target level of 2% despite the prospects of a slowdown in consumer prices. Hence, the central bank will go ahead with its struggle against the soaring inflation. Some Fed's policymakers confirmed this on a Wednesday, thus market optimism dampened. Today, investors are digesting fresh data on the factory inflation in the United States. U.S. producer prices unexpectedly declined by 0.5% on months in July, following a 1% increase in June, confounding the consensus of a 0.2% rise. It's the first drop in the PPI for more than 2 years, mainly driven by a 16.7% fall in gasoline prices. As for corporate reports, Walt Disney stock is under the spotlight today. The shares appreciated by 7% in the pre-market after the company reported a larger than expected growth of subscribers to its streaming service. Disney said that the number of its subscribers amounted to 221.1 million as of late June, whereas Netflix announced 220.7 million users. The stocks of the companies with a mega capitalization such as Apple, Tesla, Microsoft, Amazon and Meta traded higher in the pre-market. Baidu.com is due to unveil its corporate reports later today. While easing inflation inspires the U.S. stock market, the U.S. dollar index is extending its weakness. After heavy losses on a Wednesday, the index is trying to consolidate at around 105 points. The PPI pushed the U.S. dollar index 0.43% down, so the expected intraday corridor is defined between 104.30 and 105.10. All in all, waning inflationary pressure encouraged Wall Street and put a strain on the US dollar. Investors again cherish hopes that the US Fed could soften the fast pace of rate hikes. Fed's policymakers said that the central bank would proceed with the monetary tightening until inflation is held under control. Yesterday, Mary Daly, Neil Kashkari, and Charles Evans were on the same page, saying that inflation remains at elevated levels. Today, a weekly update on the U.S. unemployment claims coincided with the market expectations for the first time in a few weeks. The number of Americans who applied for the first time for unemployment insurance rose by 14,000 to 262,000 last week. It's slightly below the consensus of 263,000, but still remains the highest score since November. The USD CAD pair went down to 1.2760 amid the soft US dollar. So the loonie is a certain strength. The corridor for the currency pair is between 1.2730 and 1.2780 today. The Canadian dollar might find support from oil prices. Benchmark rates have climbed more than 1.5% today because the International Energy Agency upgraded the forecast of oil demand for this year. The reason is a rally over other commodities which forces some consumers to give priority to crude oil. Gas and electricity prices skyrocketed to new record highs that made some countries shift focus away from gas towards oil. Thus, analysts suppose that global demand for oil might increase by 380,000 barrels per day. And in this context, Brent futures climbed 1.5% to $98.89 a barrel, so did WTI. It's now trading at $93.27 a barrel. The crypto market is enjoying a long-awaited rally. In the light of the US CPI released yesterday, Bitcoin surged by more than 4%. It capped this impulse in the pre-market, and the crypto was trading at $24,800 at the moment of recording this video. Today it's Ethereum which has logged the most impressive gain. According to CoinMarketCap, Ethereum jumped 13% in the last 24 hours to $1,896 after a successful trial transition to the proof-of-stake blockchain from the current proof-of-work mechanism. Ethereum moderated its rally in the early American session to trade at 1,919. All in all, the token has gained 18% for the last week and almost 73% for the months. Back to Bitcoin, the crypto has two scenarios: either to climb and settle above 25,000, or lose its impulse and slip back to $24,200. We hope that our market reviews help you trade with the profits. Follow developments in financial markets on InstaForex TV channel, and see you tomorrow.